want to do, therefore I ain't going to vote. But they're right. If you don't vote, they will do what they want to do, and it won't be in your interest. Everything about your life on a day-to-day basis is affected by political decisions, either at the city, county, state, or federal level. People need to know that. If they don't have street lights on their street, there are holes in the ground, they don't have good education, healthcare, whatever, all those are political matters. And if you don't vote, you don't count. There are 900 and some thousand black folk in this state who are eligible to be registered, who are not registered. One of the things you can do is start trying to do something about that between now and the next election. This state should be blue. It probably was last time and they stole it, because they'll still do that. But you can get some of these folk off their duffs, get them registered, but you gotta help them understand why it's important. And you're smart, you're here in the intellectual center of the world. Help them understand why it is imperative that they get themselves registered and vote. Help them understand how to vote and to what they're voting for. Now, when it comes to the Hillary thing and all that sort of thing, as this lady just said, you ain't got no friends on the Republican side, okay? None, absolutely none. You have two folk running on the Democratic side who may do something you want to do. Don't let them get away with stuff, go their own way and all that. But don't piss them off either, because these are the only friends you got. What you want to do is what the lady said. Make sure that you're being heard. Make arrangements beforehand to have a sit down with these people before they come to your campus. And tell them what your interests are, what your concerns are and all that. One thing that used to be said about black people is we the only folk who forget both our friends and our enemies. And often that is the case. These are the only friends you got at the presidential candidate level. So what you want to do is co-opt them into your thinking, help them to understand what you want, and buy into their campaigns, get involved. They'll listen to you. You got all these students over here. How many thousands of students can you turn out on behalf of one of these candidates? They need to know that. Are the students registered? Are the teachers registered? Lonnie King did a study when he was a student here. He went around and interviewed teachers, knocked on their doors, so that's if they were registered. And some of them had to drop their heads in embarrassment. They weren't even registered to vote. Teachers in this center. Now, if I were the boss, there would be nobody on the campus working at the administrative, educational, academic level, or student who was old enough and met whatever requirements there are, who's unregistered. I'd make them prove it. And I'd also make them prove that they voted. You can make that happen. You can demand that of the leadership of these schools. Nobody comes through this place who's not registered and not voting. Because otherwise you're not a citizen. You don't count. And you're worthless nothing if you're not involved. You gotta be true about it. Make sure they're all registered and vote. I'm through.
The last thing, I would say like a lot of us, young folks, we're disenchanted with, like the whole voting process and a lot of things that have worked historically. Like we feel like disempowered. We're distrusting of, large popular organizations, not populist organizations, but large popular organizations. We're disenchanted with political candidates. And like Donovan said, like a lot of the structures aren't in place for us to, get our voices heard or make decisions. Like, even when I was in SGA, there were like people who come to speak and I was taken off the program, like all together. And I got there with my suit on and they're like, well, your seat is over there. So, in those type of instances, disrupt. I would say you feel like you don't have a voice, you need to, create a way for you to have a voice. You're gonna have to make a way. You might get reprimanded for it, but it is what it is. And lastly, I would say, I think, and this is just based off, my observation. I think a certain thing that we're gonna need, they don't have it inside of Walmart. Hillary Clinton can't give it to us. Bernie Sanders can't give it to us. Donald Trump can't give it to us. But when I was like reading Dr. King's last book, Where Do We Go From Here, he talked about the black elite are gonna need to get involved the black poor are gonna have to get involved, the black middle class are gonna have to get involved, and we're gonna have to start thinking, you know, we're pretty much gonna have to start thinking with a black mind. You know, you have to realize, like, Mr. Black was saying, you think about who you're buying for, you know, like, you're paying for your own whoopings. You know, pretty much you're buying, you know, products from people that are gonna support candidates that are against you. You need to realize that every time you spend your dollar, you vote. You know, I heard somebody say that at a protest one time, and it just stuck with me, and it makes me more responsible about, you know, I don't have much money, but the money that I do spend, I always try to spend it responsibly. And, you know, the best way is to, you know, invest in our own communities and invest in ourselves and invest in people who we know are gonna support, you know, our aims. That's what I would say.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out, and I believe that art activism can at least start a dialogue so we can move forward. Don't get discouraged if there's smaller numbers. You're not going to have big numbers. It's always going to be the small. And I want to say thank you.
Don't give up, don't give out, don't give in.
Well, I get the last word. It's my program. However, this was a grounding. If you all don't know who Walter Rodney is, I want you to go Google him, because on March 18th and 19th, we're going to have the 13th annual Walter Rodney Symposium, and we're going to have more groundings. And that's where you get together and not just hear speakers, but you actually engage in conversation. And that's something that Walter Rodney did. So I want you to learn about that. If you don't know about it, you can learn more about it. Come out to the symposium. If you'd like to know more about programs that we're having in the library, please put your email address on the sign-in sheet there, and I'll make sure that you know about programs that are going on. If there are programs you want to see happen in the library. My name is Karen Jefferson. I work here in the library. I'm an archivist and records manager. Talk to me and I'll see what I can do to make it happen. And the last thing I want to do is make a push for documentation. So all of the things that you all are doing, one of the reasons we could have this exhibit is because there's documentation about the Atlanta student movement. Not enough, but at least some of that material was saved. It's kind of hard because you all are doing it in digital and social, and it's like, how is that going to be preserved? How is that going to be passed on? Those photographs you're taking, the videos you're taking, if you have minutes, whatever, photographs, whatever, think about how you're going to make sure that documentation is available for future generations. So I know you need to be active doing what you're doing, but also make sure that gets out. And I hope that you will maybe write some articles in your newsletter, explain to the community what the whole Hillary Clinton situation was about, because we don't really know. All we know is that you stopped it. So, you know, write some articles about that and get the word out so we understand what really happened, because until you said it, I didn't even know that, you know, what the background of that was. So even after the event, get your narrative out any way you can. And believe, you know how stuff travels fast. So if you put it out there, somebody else is going to move it forward and move it forward and move it forward. So you tell your own story, you tell it.
Yeah, we have to start controlling the narrative.
So thank you all so much for coming. I think this was a great event. I'm glad that you bared the cold and come back.